alongside Rob Lewis and Brent Hubbs. I'm Austin Price for the Rocky Top Roundtable on this Kentucky week. Guys, Tennessee obviously with a huge game this week, a very winnable game against a Kentucky team that's now lost 2 in a row. Both of those on the road, they return back home, a place they've been far better this season.
And a place where they played very well at night. All their games, all their SEC games at home have been at night, and they've been successful. Crowd's been into it. I think, Rob, it's important for Tennessee to get out of the gates in this game. Kentucky with 2 straight losses. You kind of wonder where they're at mentally. Tennessee's been a good first quarter team. Can they jump out on them Friday or Saturday night?
I mean, also, and Kentucky is not a play from behind team.
Right.
I mean, they want to run the ball. They want to control the clock. You know, you want to get out to a hot start anyway when you're on the road. Tennessee has done that. I mean, even in games that they've lost at Florida and Alabama, they were good early, but particularly against a Kentucky offense that is not very good. If you can make it a 2-score game early, really plays to your advantage.
Well, it all starts with Hendon Hooker, who again, you know, has been really, really good since he took over the starting quarterback job. Big play after big play throughout most of the season, especially 2 weeks ago at Alabama.
Yeah, and again, I think part of that's Hendon Hooker making a lot of good plays, Rob, and I think that's some dialing it up by Josh Heupel. Pretty good schematics. They've caught Alabama's secondary in a couple of bad situations twice. Can Tennessee, this Kentucky secondary likes to kind of umbrella it. You know, they like to play that umbrella defense, keep the ball in front of them. Can Tennessee be patient? And then when that big play opportunity presents itself, can they take advantage of it? Hooker's been able to do that.
I mean, I think you can. If you just, we're 8 games into the year now, 3 quarters through the season. And I mean, I think you just have to kind of believe the numbers. Hendon Hooker has 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's really good. He's 4th in the nation in passing efficiency. I think this is a Velus Jones game because of what you said. They keep things in front of him. Velus he's only been targeted once on a deep ball this season, but he's great yards after the catch.
Yeah, I agree. Kentucky does love to keep it in front of it, and that sets up well for him and for Cedric Tillman, who they use a lot on digs and comebacks.
And it might be a tight end game too. We haven't seen a lot of Jacob Horn lately, but it may be one of those deals where you got to be patient there. And I think that's the one thing about Hendon Hooker when you talk about it. He's hit the deep balls, which everybody likes, explosive plays. The reputation for him at the start of the year was that he was almost too patient, right? Everything was a check down. That can play well in his hands. He's got a lot of patience in throwing the football. I think he's shown, as Rob mentioned, through 8 games, he's not going to force it into a lot of bad areas.
I'll tell you what will help him throw the football and not force it into bad areas. A good running game. And Tennessee, as healthy as they've been in a while up front, and then at running back, Tyon Evans should be near 100%. Jabari Small's shoulder has had 2 weeks to continue to get rest. This is a running game that, due to injuries, due to a lack of depth on the offensive line, hasn't been real good the last couple of weeks. But when they've been healthy this year, they've been really good.
Yeah, I think they've got to stay consistent with it, Rob, because when you look at Kentucky, they have a lot of tackles for losses, right? I mean, they play that vertical defense in the backfield, but they'll give up some plays as well, over 100 yards rushing a game that they surrender. It's not going to be easy to run the football, but I think Alex Golesh and Josh Heupel have to remain committed to it Saturday night.
And Tennessee's been able to do that. Even against Florida, they're around 150 yards. The Alabama game is the only time that they've been stifled. And I think what you're saying, I agree. I think Josh Heupel has shown that, when they're not facing, personnel that really outclasses them talent-wise, he can scheme some things up, and I would anticipate him being able to do that against Kentucky. I mean, Mississippi State, not a great running team. Ran the ball really well.
Yeah, and surprisingly, because State hadn't even been trying to run the football for the last month and a half of the season.
They were super balanced last week.
They were unbelievably balanced. Had to surprise Kentucky a great deal by what they've done. It makes you wonder a little bit about where Kentucky is too mentally. I mean, that they did not seem as aggressive in their front 7 as they've been. I know they're beat up front, Rob, with some different injuries, but kind of wonder where they are mentally right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean. We talked about this in the podcast, and I maybe have gone too far overboard with it. I just don't think they're very good. I think if Florida can score on one of a dozen snaps inside the 10-yard line in the last minute, doesn't have a field goal block and run back for a touchdown, and doesn't commit 20 penalties, Kentucky's 5-3 with 3 bad wins over UTC, South Carolina, and Missouri, and nobody's really talking about them.
Flip it to the other side. Tim Banks has, had him ready to play. He's been out, matched in a lot of ways when it comes, talent for talent. But that defense continues to play at a above their head level. This week they play a quarterback that is not Bryce Young and is not Matt Corral, and he's not going to run around and make a ton of plays. Now, it's not to say he's not capable, but he's neither of those guys when it comes to avoiding, eluding, and scrambling around.
And they've been really bad on offense. The only teams that have been have scored less or averaged less yards per game in the SEC are Vanderbilt and Missouri. And that's a bad company to be in.
And Tennessee has to stop the quarterback scramble on third down. Even though they don't design a lot of runs for him, they've got to make that play on third down when they get Kentucky in third and medium or long yardage situations. They've lived it. They've had that situation a lot the last 2 ball games, which is exactly where Tim Banks wants them. They have to finish that drive, Austin, and get off the field. I think running quarterbacks in the SEC, or the quarterbacks in the SEC that Tennessee have played in their 3 losses, 21 rushes for 178 yards on third and fourth down. Got to defend third and fourth down scrambles better than what they have to this point. Alabama didn't design any runs, right, for Bryce Young. Everything was just scramble around when it broke down. They've got to make sure they get off the field and don't let the quarterback get out the back door for 12 yards and move the sticks.
Yep, and Tennessee's also going to win the turnover battle this week because, that to me is how Kentucky hangs around and potentially wins this game, is if their front 7 dictate everything when they're on defense, and if they can force Tennessee into coughing the ball up, whether it would be fumbles or force Hendon Hooker into throwing bad passes that get picked off.
And that would go against the norm if that happens.
right.
I mean, Kentucky's been terrible. They had that 4 turnovers. They've forced 4 turnovers on the year and have committed 16. They're minus 12 on the year. Worse than the SEC, and it's not close.
And the fact that it tells you kind of what their schedule's been like, that they found a way to win ball games. Not many teams in the country minus a dozen in the turnover ratio, and sitting here talking about a potential team that could win 9 or 10 football games in a regular season. Doesn't happen very often.
You're exactly right about that. It's Tennessee and Kentucky coming up Saturday night. For Rob Lewis and Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price.